Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you. All right, as many of you know, I'm an old farm kid from the Midwest. One of my favorite sayings is that dog won't hunt. Also, that sermon ain't gonna preach. This gospel ain't gonna preach, all right? You've been forewarned. If you came here to feel good and I came here to preach good, it isn't gonna happen. Sorry. It's okay. If you want to take 5 minutes and say you're going to the bathroom or to get coffee and you just don't come back, I will understand today because this gospel don't preach. But let's talk about it anyway, because I feel like God is present even when we feel uncomfortable. In fact, I would argue God is most present when you and I don't feel comfortable. And I also strongly believe that when Scripture makes us uncomfortable, that's God talking. So, and to be honest, we need to be uncomfortable. It's important that we be uncomfortable because comfort is usually when bad things happen. When we are comfortable, we make bad decisions. When the church is comfortable, it makes bad decisions. When a nation is comfortable, it makes bad decisions because usually it makes decisions that keep it comfortable by harming others. And I think that's important for us to talk about because many of us, being good Midwestern Americans, are pretty comfortable, right? Even in our discomfort, we tend to be pretty comfortable. We're what I call fat and sassy. And we like it. We like it that way. And then God comes along and says, but no. And we're like, dang it, why did I even open that book? So let's talk about it. Because that's literally what the gospel is today. The gospel is people at the temple being like, oh my gosh, Jesus, look at all these cool things that we bought and that we made, and they're so pretty. And all of our success is to the glory of God. Yeah. If my teeth are whiter and I get a floppier Bible, you'll hear me talk about how all my success, my Lexus, our big amphitheater church is all to God. But don't forget to tithe 10%. But don't you worry, because Meg has taken the time to go over your taxes because you've turned them into me. I've taken a look at them, and I've sent the bill to you. You laugh. There are churches that do that. I didn't know about this until I was in seminary, because remember, I grew up in Episcopalian, right? Yes. Oh, well, shoot. Maybe I shouldn't do that after all. My deacon is going to... So, yeah, I did not know that this was a thing until I was in seminary in Chicago. And there was a big church there, and that's what they did. Every year, you sent in your statements, right? Your tax, your stuff. And then they sent a bill to you. Here's what you'll be giving this year. And I was like, for reals? Because, like, how I grew up was I sat in row 13, which was the same row that my great-grandma sat in. Like, you could see her butt indentation in the wood, because you better believe she was always there. And, like, right in the middle of the gospel, because I sat next to my dad, because did you know men always sat on the edge, right? So my dad sat on the end of pew 13, which is on the gospel side. And so the sermon is going on right in front of you because it's pew 13. And that was the good old days when the clergy would preach from the pulpit. You miss those days. Don't act like you don't. And the priest would get to a certain point, and my dad would be writing his check, and I'm sitting there, and you'd hear this loud rip. Yeah, the shame, because that was when he decided how much he was giving, right? No clergy person was telling my dad how much to give. He decided for himself. That's the kind of church I grew up in. But so in this gospel, we have this image of these people standing around admiring this temple that they've created. And Jesus says, that's meaningless. It is nothing, because the temple was never a place. The temple is not a place. And that's what Jesus comes back to tell us. The rules are not the point. The temple is not a place. Now, we gather, and that is important that we gather as a community because we need each other's support. But the church is not a place. The temple is not a building. And it is not full of fancy, awesome things. Now, it is nice, don't get me wrong. You go to a cathedral in Europe and tell me that you don't feel awed. Go ahead, I dare you. But that is not God. And that is not the temple. And you and I, it's so tempting to smash together success and holiness. To mash together wealth and God. That somehow pretty things, expensive things, equate to God's pleasure. And yet we know that that's not true. But isn't it slightly comforting that even the disciples struggled with this? Even in the Old Testament, we're struggling with this. That people throughout time have wanted to equate my stuff with God, right? And Jesus has to come to us again and again and again and say, you're getting distracted. You're getting distracted by the things that make you feel comfortable. And you're making this too easy. Because it was never about being easy. Religion isn't easy because it calls us to be better. Who here wants to be better? Don't lie. You don't. Don't lie. None of us want to be better. Heck no. You go to your doctor and the doctor says, okay, Meg, I need you to start exercising more. What? Heck no, I'm not exercising more. I'm barely holding it together as it is. Anyone go to your doctor and like what they say to you? You don't want to be better. Don't nobody want to be better. And so the disciples are like, isn't this great? And Jesus is like, no, I need you to be better. And they're like, wait, what? Remember the good old days when you were doing miracles and feeding us and stuff? The good old days, like the water into wine thing? We like that. We signed up for that. And he's like, yeah, but no. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to be easy to be distracted and tempted by all these things. Like, people are going to come and they're going to tell you, hey, but if you do it like this, it's going to be more fun. If you do church like this, you're going to feel better about yourself. If you do politics like this, it's going to be more fun. If you do work like this, it'll be more fun. If you have relationships like this, it's going to be better. It'll be more fun like that. There's the glitz and the glamour. And you and I are so tempted by glitz and glamour, aren't we? We are so tempted by glitz and glamour. And yet, our God is a God that calls us to sacrificial love. Okay, can I just be real with you right now? We got sacrificial love. We got fat and sassy. Do you understand why we're all tempted to go this direction? Because I am. We all are. And that's why, again and again, Jesus has to come to us and say, no. No. It's not about the temptation. It's not about the distraction. It's not about the noise. Because there's been a lot. Anyone here glad that the election's over simply so you don't have to hear any more election ads? Yeah. I know. And I try to be a pretty politically astute person and involved, but I'm frankly tired. Okay? There's so much noise in our world. And it doesn't matter where it landed on what. Somebody's got something to say about how they won. And you're like, yeah, but okay, no? Oh, okay. You can spin that however you want. There is so much noise in our world. And it is so easy to get distracted by it. We go one of two ways. One, we get sucked into it. We get sucked into the drama and the negativity, and it's kind of like it's just a suck, right? We like it. Or we go the complete other direction. We say, I don't want to do this anymore, so we just opt out entirely. Both of those are damaging to the gospel. You are not called to tap out. And if you feel tempted to tap out, I want you to take a second to acknowledge the privilege that you have and the ability to tap out. Because if you have the ability to say, this doesn't impact me, I don't have to pay attention, that's when you and I are called to pay attention. Or if your other temptation is to get so sucked into the negativity and the destruction of other people, that is also a dangerous place to be. If you are obsessed with the winners and the losers, we have a problem. But you and I are distracted by noise. We are so distracted by the winners and the losers, distracted just by the glitz and the glamour, all this stuff. And we notice all the other churches and how they're doing too, right? All the other states, we notice how they're doing. All the other people in your workplace, you notice how they're doing. And when we are distracted, are we living the gospel? If we're so busy looking out there, are we looking in here? Because we were called to look in here. And in looking in here and doing our work here, then we can start to change out there a little bit better. Because you and I were never called to get sucked into out there. We were called to be God's chosen and then to go change out there for the better. So, I get that that's hard. Jesus gets that that's hard. And that's good news, because the Old Testament, they're struggling with it too. We have struggled throughout time, and that's why we live in community together. That's why you and I are here to support each other. Because sometimes it's hard. It's hard. It's so tempting to tap out or to get sucked in. And we are called to balance. We're called to balance all of those things. And I invite you to find a way to do that. I invite you to find a way to do that, because it's going to be about self-care. It's going to be about looking to God. It's going to be about holding each other up. And sometimes it's holding each other up and supporting each other. And sometimes it's holding each other accountable, right? And that's hard too. But we are called to live in community so that we can do that. And sometimes, if we're really, really lucky, we get the Jesus that turns water into wine. Or scotch, or coffee, or whatever you're doing. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you. Okay, can I just say, if y'all wanted to get rid of me, you didn't have to take my chair away. You could have just told